Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to the SnoWest Show. We are starting our 4th year here, and we've got a lot of great content lined up for you in 2025. I'm your host, Ryan Harris. Real quick, before we get into this episode, the SnoWest Show is made possible thanks to Polaris Snowmobiles. And for a limited time, Polaris is offering up to $3,000 off or 0% APR for 36 months, plus a 2-year warranty on select models. Now, 0% financing is pretty rare to find these days, so I'd jump on that offer. And these offers run from January 1st through February 28th, so start shopping for your next sled now. Go see your local Polaris dealer or find your closest dealer at Polaris.com. Also located in Big Sky, Montana, only 5 minutes away from riding areas like Buck Ridge and Cara Basin, 320 Guest Ranch offers lodging and accommodations for your next snowmobiling adventure. Single cabins and large full cabins with kitchens are available. Check them out at 320ranch.com. Also sponsoring the SnoWest Show this year, Fly Racing. They're the #1 gear brand in Supercross and Motocross, and they are bringing that same product innovation to snowmobiling. Whether it's monosuits, helmets, boots, gloves, goggles, Fly Racing has you covered for your snowmobiling need head to toe. Check them out at flyracing.com or Fly Racing Snow on socials. And thank you to Deviant Inc. for supporting the show this year. Head on over to deviantinc.com and check out their custom wrap builder with their new interactive design tools that make designing and customizing wraps super easy. Their new colorizer tool randomizes color combinations until you land on the look that you love. Then you can try the design mixer tool to see all the Deviant Inc. designs in the colors that you've selected. Check all that out at deviantinc.com. Thank you for listening again, and now back to the show. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the SnoWest Show. I'm Ryan Harris. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. If you're on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us out a lot, bringing these things to you as much as we can. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you for doing that. Subscribe to the channel if you don't mind. Today, we are going to talk about the 850 class, the non-turbo class, the NA class, whatever you want to call it. We've been focusing on 3 sleds. Well, and then we threw a 4th into the mix just to make it interesting, because that's the question that everybody's going to go to, right? So we test the 850 RMK non-turbo with the 850 Skidoo Summit non-turbo, the 858 Cat, which is obviously non-turbo, and then we throw in a 9R because everybody's like, well, how do those all compare to the 9R? So those 4 sleds, that's what we're going to talk about today. We weighed them, we rode them. We've been riding these since early this year. Last year. Yeah, it's 2025, right? Yeah. Yeah. So we started riding these things in February. Had different days on them. We've had them together. We've got them in the fleet this year, the test fleet. So we're going to be talking a lot about that. Let me introduce who's here today. Test riders for SnoWest. We got Bruce Kerbs to my left here. Bruce, you've been involved with SnoWest test riding for years now, several years. Helped us out in a lot of projects. Went to Montreal, Quebec, with us in February of last year. I was going to leave you there, but stay on that tour bus and just cruise around town all.
Yeah, that was a good time.
All year. Broc, Genta over there in the corner. Broc, you come from Motorfist days, Arctic Cat district sales rep. Do you miss that? You wish you were still there. Not that you would be, because they're all laid off.
I was gonna say, I think I made the right choice.
Yeah,
getting out 5 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was a good move. And then Justin Stevens, who if you've been watching the show this fall, you're very familiar with. Justin's been on helping us out with a lot of shows here. Justin, background in the sport, goes back to Motorfist days. Again, marketing director for Motorfist for several years. Yeah. Been in the sport for a long time and helping us out with snow tests for a long time. All right, well, let's jump in here. Let's talk some non-turbos. We have a tendency to focus on turbos because that's where the fun's at, right?
That's probably the more exciting piece. I mean, it's new and a lot of power, and of course, everybody would love to have one if they can. So, but I think there's a lot of riders that do. Probably your more extreme riders, I think, gravitate toward the turbo, but the NAs still have an awesome place in the market, and they're a lot of fun to ride. So,
what is their place in the market? Because I'll be honest with you, we're only doing this because the Cat 858 came out,
right?
And there's no turbo version of it. So to see where it stacks up, we wanted to go pull in an NA from everywhere and do all this, which is very interesting to me because this goes back a little more grassroots. But where do these NAs fit in the market?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm currently looking for one, and and I'm struggling because I'm sitting here thinking, okay, I'm just going to get an 850. They're a good deal right now. And then I get in there and I'm like, maybe I just want to get a 9R. It's funny you asked that because I've struggled with that the last week trying to decide, what do you get? Because it'd be for kids, family, stuff like that. I don't know that it'd be my preferred sled to go out for a day on. I'd rather have something a little different, but I think definitely entry level, maybe a little different riding than some of the guys might do. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think there's a market for them because I actually just went and
just
bought
got one.
Yeah, I bought a holdover. Because of the deal to spend time with my son. Mm-hmm. My son's 17 years old. I didn't want to throw him directly onto a turboed sled because we know what those turbo sleds can do. I think it's better to probably learn on a naturally aspirated sled, and learn the backcountry, learn your side hill and all that type of stuff before you get thrown right onto the turbos. And then another reason I did is because it was a holdover, and it's $4 or $5 grand cheaper than a turboed sled. So as a family sled, it's awesome. We've had a lot of fun on it this year.
Yeah. No, I think there's a market for it. I mean, not everybody's rode a turbo, right? So they don't know that feeling, but there's those people that don't need a turbo or don't want a turbo. It depends. I mean, certain snow conditions, I wouldn't want a turbo. I'd rather be on an NA.
Well, the day we rode these, it was
a turbo day.
A total NA day.
Right. No, turbos are fun, but your NAs are more challenging, I guess, in spots. I always like to go up and pick a line and try and get there on an NA. It's, I guess, a little more rewarding, and when you get to the top, you feel like you're cool and stuff.
Says the cat guy. Says the cat guy that doesn't have a turbo option.
Right.
Yeah, you're on NA regardless.
Yeah.
Let's be real here.
It's weird that you like those.
Yeah. It's crazy to me though that we're sitting here talking about 850 NAs as the stepping stone, as the base, as the entry level sled.
Yeah.
Which they're not. I mean, there's other entry level sleds to do, but that's part of what's wrong with the industry right now. Not what's wrong with the industry, but it's an element of the industry that makes it tough to get into it easily, because you're not going to go out and get a Summit Neo or a 400 Cat for your son. You're going to go get an 850 because, let's be real, if you need it, you're going to ride something that you want. So you want something in the garage that will be fun for you to take out, but it's also something that is a little more manageable for them.
Exactly. That's why I did what I did, because it was, I don't know, telling myself $15,000 sled's an affordable sled, but that's an affordable sled.
Did you tell your wife it was only 10?
I think I told her it was 9,500.
9,500.
Yeah, like 9,500.
Yeah,
sounds better.
But yeah, it's there's a market for them.
Yeah,
yeah, there is. So let's jump into weights. Bruce, you and I went up a few weeks ago, and we weighed these 4 sleds that we're talking about. And let me tell you real quick the 4 sleds that we are talking about. We have a 2025. They're all 2025s. They're all production sleds. A 2025 Polaris Khaos RMK 850, 155 with the 325 track. That's the 3 1/4 inch track. You know how we measure those, right? Base gauge, so lightweight gauge. 2025 Skidoo Summit X. This is the 850 NA. 154 track, 3 inch track, also with the base gauge. When I say base gauge, I mean not the big touchscreen iPad setup. 2025 Arctic Cat M858. This is not this is not part of our test fleet. This is something that Bruce went and bought because we all know he bleeds green. So
right.
My check's in the mail, right?
Bruce did his part to help save Arctic Cat.
Thanks, Bruce.
2025, and this is the Alpha 1. 154 3 inch, also with the base gauge. It's the black model, it's a big black cat. So we named it the BBC. 2025 Polaris Khaos RMK 9R is the 4th sled in this fleet. It's also a 155 with the 325 track, and this one has the 7S gauge. Now I will point out that both of these Polarises have the Walker Evans piggyback shocks. So when we talk weights, we try to stack these up as close to each other as we can, and we're somewhat limited on what we can request, but generally we can kind of get what we're going after. So when we're talking weights between the 3 850s, the Khaos RMK 850, the Summit X 850, the Cat M 858. I wanted the small gauge on all three of those.
Right.
So that we're trying to weigh the lightest sled, because that's something that we push pretty hard is lightweight. However, on the flip side, the RMK has piggyback shocks, and you can get it with monotube shocks. So there's a slight weight difference there. And the tracks. I decided, hey, we're going to go with the biggest track offering they have, deepest lug track offering that they each have. So for Cat, it's 3-inch. For Skidoo, it's 3-inch. For Polaris, it's 3¼ inch. Obviously, you could get a lower weight by going to Polaris's 275 track, Skidoo's 2.5 track. Not sure what the weight difference is there. And then Cat, if you went down to the 2.6 track, I don't know, that's heavier. I believe that's a heavier track. So, and then the Khaos 9R, that has the 7S display, and that also has the piggyback shocks. However, we did not weigh the 9R.
No.
We just focused on these three. So let's start out. Let's talk about. Now, if you'll turn to your page with the bar charts. Let's jump in here. We're going to talk about total ride weight. Now, we weigh these things ready to ride. That if you were going on a ride, if you're with your buddies, you would start out with a full tank of gas and a full tank of oil and a spare belt. So that's what we weigh these at. The same weight that you're going to hop on in a parking lot and take off for the ride. We're not going to weigh them empty. We're not going to weigh them with all the same amount of gas. We're going to ride them full, because that's how you leave for a ride, is full.
Right.
So the Skidoo carries more gas than the others. So it's carrying more liquid, but it's a full tank of gas. So we just weigh stuff with a full tank of gas, because that's how we start our ride. Total ride weight. Bruce, do you want to run down that list?
You bet. Skidoo Summit X 850, 154 3-inch track. Total ride weight is 530 pounds, 0.6. Polaris Khaos RMK 850, 155 with 3.25 is 511.9. And the Arctic Cat M 858, 154 3-inch track is 511 even.
So your Cat, your 858 and your Polaris 850
are right there.
Come in pretty much the same weight.
Yep.
I mean, that's definitely within the margin of error too, that 0.9.
Yeah. That's probably Bruce's finger on the back.
You can't see it.
Get a little weight. Yeah.
I think he set his Red Bull on the running board just to screw us up.
Right.
Make sure that the Cat wins out.
Yeah.
Nice.
So what does that tell you though? Like what do you read from those numbers?
That the Skidoo's heavier.
You walked into that one. Yeah, so you got a 19-pound difference on the Skidoo, and that's a big chunk of weight. And so we also weighed these separately. We strapped down the hoist from the front bumper and just lifted it straight up until the carbides just barely left the ground, and then we went to the rear bumper and lifted it straight up just until the track lugs came off the ground. And that's just to represent what you feel as you're moving the sled around.
Maybe, but I thought it was a cool thing that you thought of.
Yeah, it's kind of those numbers are interesting.
Because the numbers are interesting.
Yeah. Kind of a whole different way to look at the total weight. I think every sled has a little bit different weight balance.
For sure.
So I know you're going off the bumper, so maybe that doesn't come off the exact same spot on the sled, but it still kind of represents at least kind of a hinge point.
Mm-hmm. It's subjective because some bumpers stick out farther than the others.
Yeah, but all in all, I mean, you get maybe just a little bit more information into what kind of weight you're carrying on the front and how much of that's in the back, and that would probably translate into the rideability of the sleds.
Yeah, and I'm sure people are going to comment on this and blow us out of the water on some comments and be like, that's the dumbest thing ever. But yeah, I mean, you got your weight transfer, right? Some sleds transfer weight to the back easier and better. So that's going to, get rid of the front weight, I guess, is what you can say.
Yeah.
You can see all these comments already coming, but I thought that was pretty cool that we did this. Just
another
point of view.
This isn't a 3M lab. Like we're just a bunch of hillbillies with a hoist and a scale.
They like to ride snowmobile.
we just want to talk about what we're feeling when we ride these things. So you get your total ride weight 511, and 530. So two sleds that are the same, and then one that's 19 pounds heavier. If you go down to front bumper weight, this one was interesting to me. The Cat was 216. Again, that's just lifting the front bumper straight up until the carbides come off the ground. The Khaos is 251. So a big chunk, a big step forward in weight there. And then the Skidoo Summit is actually really close to the Cat at 219. Now, we took a closer look at, okay, what's causing that? Maybe the front bumper on the Polaris sticks out closer to the ski tips than the other two.
Could be the front bumper. It could be shock travel. I mean,
because and that's the subjective part.
Off. That's
how far up do you have to go to decompress everything to get the skis come off? The one thing that I think we discovered was if you take the side panels off, you can kind of see the layout of the engine, and obviously the Cat has the lay down engine structure and the intake and exhaust are on the both sides on the same side.
Right.
So they can take the cylinder and lay it back and lay it down right against the drive shaft, basically.
Yeah.
And so the piston stroke and the head are basically facing your shins. If you go to the Skidoo, the motor is more upright because it's got the intake on the back side, the exhaust on the front side. It's the injection system and everything. So the cylinders are kind of vertical. Mm-hmm. If you go to the Polaris, the cylinders actually lean forward a little bit. So you've moved that top end. You've rotated the engine like this. The Cat is laid down. The Skidoo is vertical. The Polaris is leaning forward a little bit. Mm-hmm. So that's a lot of mass.
Leaning forward.
Leaning forward relative to like the Cat.
Right.
So you take the subjective stuff out of it, like the bumper length and where it sits and all that. And then you look like, okay, where are the heavy parts of the machine? And the Polaris has got, it appears, got a little more weight sticking out over the crankshaft, over the drive shaft.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool that you noticed that. And just when we lined all three up, kind of staggered them, you could see that pretty easy, the way the motors leaned. And it's pretty cool. I love this test weight. And
then we'll get into that. We're gonna break this up into three parts probably. We're gonna talk about these weights. We'll keep going on this, and then we're gonna jump into our ride tests. What do these sleds feel like compared to each other? And then we'll get into questions that we have, kind of for each other, for the general audience, and then questions that we asked for on social media.
Yeah,
and we'll get in there and answer those.
Do you want to share the rear bumper?
Yeah,
lift?
go and dive into the rear bumper.
All right, so Arctic Cat on the rear bumper lift is 172.1. The Khaos was actually coming in lighter at 163.5, and then the Skidoo Summit was 173.2.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense.
Yeah.
So if you look at that, I mean, the Cat and the Skidoo, both front and rear, were within a few pounds of each other. In fact,
that's
1 pound.
That's 1.1
1 pound on the rear bumper. So, but the Khaos was a lot lighter not a lot, but 10 pounds lighter in the back. So, kind of cool.
Interesting. The other interesting thing, and when you said, does anything surprise you by this? I'm surprised by the Arctic Cat for sure. Like, I don't think we'd ever, in the past, really think that it would be anywhere near the lightest or one of the lightest. Like, it's always kind of been discounted as
been a long time coming,
as heavy and stuff. So I think that the new Catalyst platform and what Arctic Cat's done is awesome. I mean, to go, that's a huge shift.
Yeah.
I guess for them. So we saw it a little bit with the 600, and everybody's wondering what the 858 would look like. So it's pretty cool.
The 858 a few pounds lighter than the 600.
Yeah. So if you remember last year, we weighed this same configuration 600 with the 3-inch track and the base gauge, and it was 513.
Yeah.
And then we weighed an Ibex turbo, and it was also 513. But if you take that 513 number and then you take what Arctic Cat said they were going to do, the 858 engine package was going to be 3 pounds lighter. That was initially, and then they came back and added that external steel spider, which is a little over a pound.
Yeah.
These numbers add up exactly
2 pounds. Yeah.
Huh. So it is interesting, like what they claimed. And you've got an Ascender, a 23 Ascender. Mm-hmm. We talked about bringing that up because it's the same track length. It's got a 3-inch track. And weighing that versus the
Catalyst,
your Cat.
Yeah, we should.
So we still might do that. Just I'm curious because that Ascender went.
We did weigh the Ascender last year though. Do you remember?
Oh, we did, didn't we?
I think it was 530, 40.
I was going to say, I thought you were one of the heavier ones for sure. Yeah. So that's a pretty significant change.
I'll look for that. Keep talking.
All right.
It's a significant change. You can feel it when you ride it. Me and Bruce went riding.
Yeah,
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, both out. There's
the Ascender
the 23 and then the 25. There's
a
huge difference in the feel.
Okay, I found it. The Ascender. This is an Alpha 1 hardcore, 153 3-inch.
I don't think it's a hardcore. It's a Snow Pro.
Yeah. Okay, you're right. Mountain Cat Snow Pro. Yeah, SP. Mountain Cat Snow Pro 154 3-inch Alpha 1. This is weighed the same way, full of fuel, full of oil, spare belt. Take a guess.
I got 530 in my head for some reason.
545.
545.
I had 543.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so you're
5 pounds.
You're 34 pounds.
Heavier. Yeah.
That's a lot of weight. So and that Ascender, so that's heavier than the Summit X by 14 pounds.
Yep. And I feel that Ascender, you could feel the weight in the front.
Yeah.
Especially on a downhill. It wanted to dive. You've always said that.
Yeah.
That's always
been one of the things I don't like.
I've always thought you're full of crap until.
So it's funny when we get together with the engineering teams, like Polaris engineering team and Skidoo engineering team, we spend a lot of time with these guys and have great discussions with them, and you guys have all been in those discussions at wherever we're meeting with them, whether we're out in Quebec with them. I was out at the factory, Skidoo factory this fall or last fall in September. You guys, we meet them in Island Park. We meet them in West Yellowstone. We spend a lot of time with these guys, and we always talk mountain sled is a category. It's a different type of snowmobile than trail sled. We don't want a long track trail sled. We want a mountain sled. Well, what is a mountain sled? What makes an engineering mind say, okay, this is going to be more mountain oriented besides just a long track and a narrow stance? It's weight distribution, and it's just overall weight, right?
Right.
Like we want a lighter vehicle.
Yeah.
And so we push for that, and we talk about that. And Arctic Cat, this is a total sidetrack, but Arctic Cat with the M chassis that came out in 2005 had that. Mm-hmm. They had the lightest sled. They had a dedicated mountain chassis. Right. It wasn't great on any kind of a bumpy trail, so it didn't work for them to carry over. It shared some components with the trail and crossover, but man, this thing was dedicated. Jason Howell did a great job. He was the product manager back then. Great job coming up with a dedicated mountain sled. Yeah. And then in 2012, roles changed, people changed, engineering teams changed, and they came in and changed direction and said, you know what, to streamline things, we're going to go back to one platform, and it's going to be what works in the bumps, and it's going to be kind of based on our race sled. And you're going to take that, and you're going to have to start with this platform and figure out what to do out there in the West, because this is going to be our main platform going forward. Yeah. So that was the beginning of the Ascender. It wasn't called the Ascender back then in 2012 or 2012 when it came out.
Yeah.
But
it's called the boat.
It was a
Proclaim.
Proclaim.
Yeah, you owned one. I might have had one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So that completely flipped the cards on Arctic Cat. Yeah. They went from the lightest, most probably one of the most agile sleds. Now, granted, that sled went from 2005 to 2011. That chassis did. Mm-hmm. That's a pretty long run for a chassis. Yeah. And then Polaris had come out with the Pro Ride, and Skidoo in 2011. They were still in the XP. Yeah. But they were a couple years away from the XM. So anyway, it's just fun to look back on that stuff to figure out why we're here. How did we get here? How did Arctic Cat go from 2012 to 2024, 2023 with one chassis? Yeah. And now the Catalyst is back to what that M was, a completely dedicated mountain sled. It's built for the mountains. And then they took what works with the Catalyst, let's make it work for crossover and trail. Yeah. But you can see in the weight why it's suddenly a mountain sled again, because the thing is lightweight. 511 pounds, ready to ride.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's impressive. Impressive change.
And then the Polaris, obviously, 511.9. That reflects. I mean, Polaris kind of has that history of being the lightweight mountain sled. Yeah,
most
I
flickable.
think it's got the Target on there. Flickable, right. Yeah.
Flickable.
Yeah, it's owned that for quite a while.
So here's my question to you guys. Even though them weigh the same, and maybe we'll get into this, maybe you don't want to jump into this right now, but Broc, even though them weigh the same, what feels lighter? And why do you think, I guess? Or both of her, all three of you?
To me, the Cat feels lighter. I mean, it really does. Like, it's quick.
And do you think it's that transfer of the weight to the center of the sled with the motor? Probably a lot of it. Less. I mean, if you look at the numbers, that Polaris Khaos is 35 pounds heavier on the front bumper.
Yeah. Yeah.
No. Can you guys feel that on the Khaos?
I'd say so. Yeah. I think that's one of the biggest differences when we're thinking about what to, talk about and how to compare those two. I'd say the Catalyst definitely, I don't know how much of it has to do with the Alpha 1 and how much of it has to do with this the weight distribution, but it definitely feels a little bit lighter on the front end. The Polaris definitely feels a little bit more grounded, which, in certain circumstances, I actually prefer that. But yeah, I mean, even with the Khaos, I think it still felt a little bit more grounded than the Catalyst. So it felt a little bit lighter and more playful on the front end.
I witnessed his first turn on the Catalyst going up through the first section of trees. I witnessed his first turn.
I was ready to make that turn on the Cat,
and he just
BBC dumped him off.
Huh? He got dumped quick.
Hucked me. Yeah.
Oh man! All right, yeah, we'll jump into that here in a second. The handling differences and all that, but that is a good point. Because like Skidoo has been a heavier platform and a heavier chassis, but they've figured out ways through engineering to make it handle lighter. And I wonder if we did so the Summit X is going to be lighter than a Summit Expert, which is why we requested a Summit X for this test. But if we had a Summit Expert, maybe when we get into the ride impressions, things would be different.
True.
Just because of the handling, the different ski, some of the features on that sled.
And the T-Motion.
But yeah, let's just to recap: total ride weight, the Arctic Cat 858, 154 3-inches, 511 pounds, full of fuel, ready to ride. Polaris Khaos 850, 155 with the 325 track, 511.9 pounds. Skidoo Summit X 850, 154 3-inch, 530.6 pounds. And that's where I want to just mention again, the Skidoo has a higher fuel capacity, so you're probably 12 pounds of gas.
More, you think?
10 pounds. Yeah. You'd have to really pull up some numbers and do a little math there. We're from Idaho, so that's 6 pounds. 6 pounds per gallon.
Is it how many more gallons does it hold?
That's what I'm trying to think. So you're maybe 8 to 10 pounds, somewhere in that range, give or take. Yep. I mean, give us a break. We're from Idaho. We don't really do numbers up here, but so you've got a bit of weight there that it's just carrying more gas.
Right.
So the sled itself maybe is lighter, but hey, that's our hard line. Full of gas, ready to go.
Right.
Any other thoughts on weights from you guys? Any observations from that?
I don't think so. I'm good.
Nothing? All right. Okay. We'll take a quick break here and we'll be right back with part 2 here. We're going to jump into ride tests and comparisons on, we're going to talk about moguls going into mountains, technical riding, play area, handling and feel, chassis balance, engine power and response, ergonomics, and then we're going to compare these 3 sleds riding wise to the 9R, because that's the number one question we get.
Yeah.
Well, where does it stack up for the 9R? Shouldn't the 858 be compared to a 9R, not an 850? That type of thing. So we're going to jump into that next. So hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit the subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever you're listening to, and check out that next episode. Thanks for listening.
I'd rather be riding.